On today's programme, James drives Fiat's new baby. Richard looks at classics of the future. And I attempt to destroy a Toyota pickup truck. Good evening. Now we start tonight with the knotty problem of coupes. You see, if you buy one, you get very little space in the back, very small boot. So all you're paying for really are the looks. This one, though, is a little bit different. It's the Mazda RX-8, and the first thing you need to know is that it's not exactly the prettiest car in the world. It's almost like they had a styling suggestion box at the factory. They got millions of ideas and then said, I know, let's have all of them. So it's got triangles and curves and gills and the back window from a Ford Anglia, and look at these lights. They're busier than a bishop's hat. The second thing you need to know is that it's not a coupe. Again, it looks like the work of a committee. Half of them said, we want a two-door GT car, and the other half said, no, we want a four-door saloon. And then they thought, I know, we'll have both. So, open the door, and in there you've got a sporty red and black interior, like a man's wash bag. Very coupe-ish. But what's this? Not exactly going to work as a mini cab in there, but there's certainly space enough for your 2.2 kids. Really, it's the best of both worlds. Cheap, too. The old RX-7 used to be priced to compete with Porsches. It was £35,000. But this one is just £22,000. And don't think they've skimped on equipment. You get air conditioning, you get satellite navigation, you get electric seats. In fact, the only place where you get less than you might be expecting is under the bonnet. Most cars of this type come with huge engines, but this has a 1.3. So you might be wondering, what is a 1300cc four-door saloon doing on our track? Normally, only the really fast and exotic stuff comes out here. Let me show you. It may only be a 1.3, but it's a Wankel rotary engine. So you get 228 brake horsepower from a 1.3. It's not the torquiest engine in the world or the most economical, but God, it's smooth. You even get a little buzzer, ready? To tell you to change gear at 9,000 RPM, because it doesn't feel like it's running on anything as coarse and vulgar as petrol. It feels like it's running on double cream. So, on the downside, the styling is a bit fussy. On the upside, though, it's got a great engine, it makes a great noise, it goes like stink, it's very comfortable, it's practical, it's well priced, and it's well equipped. And then there's the really good stuff. This is one of the easiest cars to drive fast that I've ever come across. It's just so forgiving. It's kind of like a punch bag. You can give it absolute hell, and it just never fights back. It's got the perfect layout. Front engine, rear-wheel drive with a limited slip differential. Oh, perfect. The guy who was running Mazda when they were designing the RX-8 used to race cars, and it kind of shows. However, when you've finished clowning around, it settles down, takes off its Terminator suit and becomes Jane Austen. Quiet, comfortable, and dignified. car is sensational. You get all the benefits of a coupe with none of the drawbacks, and all the practicality of a saloon with none of the tedium. Of all the cars I've driven this year, I'm pretty sure this one is the best.
The best car?
No.
Well, you did just say the best car you've driven this year.
Yeah, I was lying.
OK.
No, the thing about it is that it was great, but after I recorded that, I drove it on a wet road, and it's awfully twitchy. There's something about these tyres that make it really, a bit skittish. However, shouldn't be a problem for the Stig, because it's bone dry out there. So, mushy mushy, Stig San. And away he goes. Ooh, lots of wheel spin, lots of wheel spin. And coming up to the first corner, a bit of a wobble there. I hope that's not a sign of things to come. Oh dear, first corner. Already the Mazda's oversteering. That's what the Stig calls music from the Thresher ad. Look at that understeer. Surprisingly bad, and what's he got going in there? Oversteer going in, and then sort of understeer. Did speak to the Stig earlier. He assured me this would be the fastest technique for this car. Will he hold it through the follow-through? Looking a bit raggedy, but ooh, that's not bad. Over the first half of the lap, the RX-8 was almost level with the BMW M3. I know it doesn't look like it. This could be a seriously good time. More oversteer, understeer. He's got the lot and across the... You want to know the time?
Yeah, go on.
1 minute, 31.8. And that means that it's exactly the same time as an M3 BMW.
That's very, very quick.
That is quick.
However, there is, of course, another coupe that everybody's talking about at the moment, and it's this, the Nissan 350Z. Now, just look at it briefly for a second. Look at the difference. It's a big, squat, butch car. It doesn't have a silly little wanker. Butch car.
That thing's hanging low, you know what I mean? It's a V6.
3.5 litre. None of your wankle nonsense. Now, we've sent that round our track with the Stig, and that has done a time as well. Do you want to know what it was?
I know what it was.
It was exactly the same.
131.8.
Yeah, which is incredible, really, when you think the two. I mean, 1 point, whatever that is, in a big
So
engine
they're exactly
there.
the same speed, except there are a couple of differences in that costs £2,000 more and wears you out when you drive it. This is more practical and more fun to drive. That is a very, very good car.
Right, now here is the news, and we'll stick with coupes, and this is the new Alfa Romeo GT. On sale beginning of next year. You can have a 3.2 V6, going to be £20,000 to £27,000. I've actually already driven it, and I rather like it. I think it looks great.
I think it looks brilliant.
No, I don't. It's rubbish.
No, it's fantastic.
What's gone wrong with you at the moment? You keep not liking really nice
No, honestly, we
cars.
haven't got a photograph of it from the back,
Oh,
but
no,
it's got a really... Yeah, OK, we can hold
see
that
this?
up. It's just a bit...
I like
Vanessa Feltzy. It's just, I'm not sure, it's styled by Bertoni, and I'm not sure that he isn't a bit, he designs with his right hand and actually he's left-handed.
No,
it's not.
All the great
I don't know, how much is it going to be?
Well, £20,000 to £27,000 we think, but that's not official.
20,000 for a cheap one and then 27.
Well, 20,000 for a 1.8 twin spark, the 3.2 V6 probably about £27,000. That's the one I drove.
The only thing I would just say, though, about owning an Alfa Romeo is you have to, in order to be petrosexual,
yes.
Yeah.
You must at some point have owned an Alfa Romeo in your... You've had one, haven't you?
I have had one. Have you had one?
Yeah, I had one.
I had a 164.
I had a GTV6, and so you...
Oh, I haven't had one.
He's not a proper petrol... You're not
How long have I got to have it for?
10 minutes.
Well,
Can't I just go into a shop, sign for it on the credit, and then sign to sell it on another piece of
Well, you
paper?
could do, but you'd have lost £3,000.
Yes, but I'd only have to drive about 100 yards from the new to the used sales department, so it'll probably only break down once.
Yeah, it will break down.
No, honestly, you've got to do it. Has anyone here got an Alfa? Yeah. You a Pisces?
Why?
No. What?
You are a Pisces with an Alfa Romeo, yeah.
All
Pisceans have
what
Alfa...
on earth are you talking about star signs for?
Pisceans like a bit of a blub, and there's nothing guaranteed to get the blubbing going. It's broken down again, it hates me. It doesn't hate you, it's just an Alfa.
I'll be all right. I'll be all right.
You are a Piscean.
I don't care.
And you do have an Alfa Romeo. It's a fact.
I knew it.
But I'm a Capricorn, and Capricorns don't believe in
Well,
astrology.
you've got a Bentley. Capricorns have Bentleys.
No, they don't, though, do they? Because my mum's got one, and she hasn't got a Bentley. She's got a Seat Arosa.
That's not a Bentley.
No,
is
they
it?
either have Bentleys or Sayateroses, Capricorns.
Is that a known fact?
Yeah, it's a known fact. But no, I got that right. 2 Alpha owners it, one of them's a...
Jeremy.
What's it?
Is anybody here a Piscean but not owning an Alpha?
I didn't say that.
Now, that's false logic.
And there's
that
another
is
thing,
absolute
because all the
scientific.
Pisceans would have been here, but their Alphas broke down on the way. Oh, you see?
Story here, Schumacher is to race a jet fighter in his Ferrari. We've done that.
Yeah, we've done that.
Well, he won't win, so that's...
He won't win, he'll lose. Now, you know, for years, everybody really has been trying to develop an electric car, you know, one that runs on batteries. Now, this is fraught with difficulties, frankly. First of all, you plug it into the mains and you get the power to charge your batteries from a...
Power station.
Power station, which burns coal or
oil
gas,
or
so not
fossil fuel.
particularly environmentally friendly. Now, the big trick that car makers have been working on now for years is to develop a car that has its own power station in the boot that drives the car. And it's a power station that runs on hydrogen. You put hydrogen in, all you get out of the back is H2O, water. Totally green. Don't plug it in. And Mercedes has cracked it. Here it is. This is what they've come up with. It's
an
the
A-class.
S-Cell. It is an A-class, completely conventional. It's got, I've got the figures here, 86 brake horsepower.
It's all right.
Yep, top speed of 87 miles an hour.
How much is it?
It's, well, what's a normal A-class? About
14-ish?
15,000 pounds. This is a little bit more. It's 300,000 pounds.
That is a bit steep for a small family car.
That's Genesis. You can remember where you were when you first saw that, vegging out in front of the sofa on a Sunday night with your kids saying, I wish they'd talk about Lamborghinis.
Boring.
Now, speed cameras. Been a massive growth, and they're in the news at the moment. 10 years ago, there were virtually none. Now we've got round about 5,000. Now, because all these cameras are supposed to be highly visible, and because they're all supposed to be put at known accident black spots, you would imagine, would you not, that they've had a dramatic effect on the number of people being killed on our roads. I mean, if you see a camera there and it's at an accident black spot, you slow down because you don't want to get fined. Well, we've got a chart here which shows what's been going on. This is the number of people who've been convicted since 1996. It was around about 250,000. Now it's just gone past, or rather by 2001, which is the last year for which we have figures available, it's gone past 1 million in a year. And yet, the number of road deaths, virtually constant. Almost exactly the same now as it was back in 1996.
Absolutely. Sadly, not the decline you'd want to see. But they're not at accident black spots, OK? There's been some research into the most dangerous stretches of road. In other words, accident black spots. These are the 10 sites that have been identified as the worst. These particular roads and these particular stretches of them, OK? They amount to a total of 137 miles on these 10 or so places. You would imagine they would be festooned with speed cameras if that's where they're putting them. Between all of those sites, all of those 137 miles of road at 10 positions, 4. 4.
The thing is, though, even if the cameras were there, I could still drive up any of those roads, drunk, uninsured, high on magic mushrooms in a stolen Nissan. But as long as I didn't actually go over the speed limit, I'd get away with it.
You see, that's the problem we're facing, is because the people who like the speed cameras and who think that they're a good idea are forever telling us that 33% of all fatalities are caused by excessive and inappropriate use of speed. But the fact is, the Transport Research Laboratory, who are proper scientists and not just mad vegetarians on bicycles, they're proper scientists. They say it's actually 7% of accidents are caused by excess speed. 7.
So you've got to ask yourself, just what are these speed cameras for? If they're not putting them at accident black spots, and even if they were, it's been discovered that only 7% of accidents are attributable to speed. What are they for? Well, I can tell you one thing we know about them for certain. Last year alone, they raised £73 million.
So what are we going to do? That's the big one. What are we going to do? Well, simple fact of the matter is, when the police get your photograph, they send you a letter saying who is driving the car at the time, and British law at the moment says you have to tell them. But we're in the EU, and European law says you have the right to remain silent. So really, we face a simple choice. We either join the EU, in which case we lose the Queen's head for the money, or we stay where we are and lose all our money.
Let's talk about something else, OK? This being a car programme, let's talk about houses. How many times have you been told by somebody, oh, I've made a fortune on my house? Well, that's rubbish, because everybody's houses are going up at the same rate. The only way to make money on a house is to buy it somewhere that's bad, that then becomes good. Fine. How can you do that with a car? What you need is a car that's not yet a classic, but that one day will be. A kind of classic waiting in the wings, if you will. And this scheme has the whiff of genius about it. What you're looking for is a car that's young enough to still be good to drive and reliable, but old enough to have been forgotten. A car like this, the Volkswagen Corrado VR6. This was VW's sports coupe for the 90s, and I think it's really rather special, even though under the skin, it's a bit of a mongrel. It's been kind of cobbled together from bits of old VWs, so we've got Passat in the rear suspension and a bit of Mark II Golf at the front. But they knew what they were doing. The result is fantastic. This drives as well as, if not better, than a lot of current cars, and I mean that, it really does. And remember, we're talking about a car that went out of production 8 years ago. And it's quick. Like, properly quick. 0 to 60 it'll do in 6.7 seconds. Well, that's quick today. That 2.9-litre V6 up front, 190 brake horsepower it puts out. It sounds fantastic. There were other versions available, but this is the one to go for, because that VR6 engine is one of the best VW ever made. So its looks and its performance go some way towards making it a future classic. But there is another factor that's even more important. It was a complete flop. It was too expensive and nobody bought it, which means it's quite rare. And there's one more thing. It's the only 90s coupe that isn't completely embarrassing. I mean, think about it. Just what message are you sending the world when you're seen climbing out of a Calibra or a Pro or even a Celica? Not good. My second tip comes from the 1980s. It's this. The Mercedes 190e 2.5 16. Quite a mouthful, and that's not even the full title, because you've got to strap Cosworth onto the end of that, because Cosworth helped develop the engine. And that gives a clue as to what this car's about. Of course, every potential classic should have a good story attached to it, and that's the case with this Mercedes, because we got this car by default. Basically, Mercedes developed the 190e 2.516 Cosworth to go rallying, but just as they were ready to launch it onto the rally scene, Audi brought out the Quattro, and that changed everything. Without four-wheel drive, the Mercedes would have been absolutely hopeless. So they abandoned their plans to go rallying and decided to produce this road-going version instead. And it's a belter. It's really not an especially sophisticated car, four-cylinder engine, but it's powerful. That 197 brake horsepower Cosworth engine is very, very good. Plus, and this is always good for classic status, it's got racing pedigree, because when the rallying plans fell through, Mercedes simply took it track racing instead. In the 1990s, it clocked up 50 wins and a German touring car championship. In fact, in his day, Martin Brundle said this had one of the best handling saloon car chassis anywhere in the world. And he knows what he's talking about. This was very much the Mercedes equivalent of the BMW M3. And in truth, it really was always in the shadow of the M3. It was Cinderella, but the coach never came. But you know, that underdog factor is part of its appeal. Next to this, the BMW looks a bit, well, obvious. Tempted? Well, if you are, you're best off going for one in black or silver with an automatic gearbox, which is why I'm driving a pink one with a manual box, obviously. In a few years, these two will be proper, all-the-medals classics, without the beady image, the rampant engine failure, and the moss on the seats. So my advice is, buy one now, before everybody wants them. And that brings us rather neatly onto something new. It's this, our classic wall. Now, we already have the cool wall. This works in the same sort of way, but on this side, we've got cars that we think will become classics in the future, and on this side, the ones that won't, the Crocs. Now, I've set the ball rolling with these two then, the VW Corrado that we saw and the Mercedes. There you go, there, guaranteed future classics.
Right, we've thought of some rules about this. To qualify as a future classic, any car, we're talking about stuff from the 90s, has to be one of these things. Rare,
yes,
beautiful,
yes,
or interesting. And I'd like to propose the original Lexus LS400.
Which is none of those things.
I think it's interesting.
No, it's not interesting, it's not rare, and it sure as heck isn't beautiful. It's hideous, James.
What's wrong with it?
Well, we've had this wall 5 minutes and you just ruined it.
I'll put it there, but I'll tell you a story, OK? When I was at school, 1979, I was a schoolboy. At the end of the school day, we used to run down the end of the drive and line up because we wanted to laugh at my English teacher as she drove home in the Mark II Jag.
Yes, but that can go... I mean, that became beautiful. That never will. It belongs there. Well, I've got one here, OK? The Citroën XM.
Oh, for God's
Bear
sake.
with me. It is red.
I'm sorry.
That goes there, and we'll explain why in a minute, James.
Would anyone like to hazard a guess why the Citroën XM was rare?
Now, look. Jeremy, can I ask, what's that?
This is an Alfa Romeo GTV6, a magnificent car.
I believe you had one.
I did indeed.
And how much did you pay for it, Jeremy?
£5,000.
And then you sold it. And how much did you sell it for?
£3,000.
OK, that didn't go too well. How much was it worth a year later?
£7,000.
So how much do you know about all of this? Absolutely nothing.
Made a mistake on this one.
Well, on that subject, could I bring up the original BMW CSL? I believe you had one of these as well, didn't you?
I did.
And how much did you pay for it?
£3,000.
And how much did you sell it for?
£2,000.
And how much was it worth about a year later?
£12,000.
In fact, as well, BMW said, one, that's a car you had and you sold it, made a loss. They're going up in value. It is, in fact, classic.
The Ferrari F355. Did you have one of these?
Yes,
Have you sold it?
Yes.
Yes, future classic. Marvellous.
Can I just interrupt here? Get out of the way. All of these cars, you'll note, I've chosen well.
Oh, yes.
All of them are classics.
Oh, very well, Jeremy.
It's my timing.
The timing is everything. It's like the stock market. What you're doing is buying high and selling low.
I've just come up with another rule of future classics. Jeremy buys, you sell. He's selling, you buy.
Exactly.
Okay, there you go. Get on the board.
Now, this is Barry. Barry is a middle-aged man, which means that pretty soon he's going to be thinking about buying a sports car. He thinks it'll make him more virile and more attractive. The trouble is, because Barry is middle-aged, all his hair has fallen out. So that means he's going to need a hairpiece of some kind, and that's a dangerous combination. Hairpiece, sports car, we're in a minefield of potential embarrassment here. So we thought we'd come up with an idea, the Top Gear toupee test. The first one we're going to test is this one. It's a full wig, known as the blonde. Okay? Shall we see how it goes? Yeah. Run the film. OK, I want to make it plain the wig was held in place with double-sided wig tape, not just plonked on his head. And here we go. Coming up now toward the national speed limit. Some of the shape has been lost, some of the style. Oh no, it's gone! It's gone! At just 110 miles an hour, it was all over. So, what happens if we up the ante and try something a little bit more expensive? That was only £60. This is a little more pricey. Let's see. This is Indonesian craftsmanship. It'll set you back £90. So let's see how much speed you get for your money. Really is an absolute beauty. It's made from 50% real human hair. Comes as standard with a 1-inch reinforced taping perimeter. So it really is the absolute... Oh, it's gone! Oh, no! At just 85 miles an hour. Oh, it's... So certainly the first time the Stig has ever had another man's hair in his lap. OK, now then, let's just remove that and see what happens if we go for the Rolls-Royce of syrups, OK? There it is. Look at that, ladies and gentlemen. Now let's see how fast you can go. Handmade in Korea, it'll cost you £250, but it is made from 100% natural fibres, which are longer, so you can cut it to your own spec. Side parting is quite a head turner. That really... Oh, no! 68 miles an hour, and it's all over. His self-worth is ruined. The moral of the story, then, seems to be that if you want to go really fast in a convertible, get yourself something very cheap, very made of nylon.
Absolutely. Now, you may have noticed that all of the wigs there were blown off forwards. It's something to do with aerodynamics. It's actually because the wind comes over here and then it goes that way. Bit of a problem. However, the good news for wig wearers is you can get round this by having a car with this, a wind deflector that's been fitted to some of the more expensive cabriolets.
OK, let's see if it works. We refitted Barry in the most expensive but worst performing wig, which in the TVR blew off at just 68 miles an hour. As you can see, we're going past that now, and it's still looking good. We're into Autobahn territory, getting on now, I think, for about... Oh, look at that, look at that. Coming up to 140 miles an hour, and still Barry is able to maintain his dignity. That wind deflector really works.
Astonishing. You know, I think that is just the sort of thing that makes us the world's premier motoring programme, because we set out to answer the questions that you didn't even realise needed asking.
Quite. Shall we meet a guest?
Yes.
Good idea. He is Mr. Pop Idol. People say he's the rudest person on television, so this should be interesting. Ladies and gentlemen, Simon Cowell! I'm sorry about this. I'm very well, how are you?
Another warm welcome, thank you.
Oh. I think I know what their problem is.
What?
It's those contestants on Pop Idol. You're just not hard enough.
What would you say to them?
Ooh, believe me, you couldn't transmit what I've got to say about them.
Well, the difference is, Jeremy, I actually know something about music, you don't. With respect.
On the evidence we've seen so far, I'd counter that you don't know a thing. That... What's he called? Bill Gates? No, he's not him.
Gareth Gates.
Gareth Gates. I could beat him in a game of Snap. And who's the other one? What's that other one
Will
called?
Young.
What's happened to his mouth?
What's
It
wrong
looks
with
like he's been hit with an axe.
Listen, I was given the Top Gear album once. That was good.
So you're not a fan of the Doobie Brothers?
Yeah, very current, the album.
You and me, after the show, I'm going to sit you down, I'm going to play you a selection of the stuff on my CD auto changer.
Yeah, I can't
Yes, Genesis, Doobie Brothers. This is... No, we're looking around. Figure it out. OK, let's move it on to cars.
Good.
What's the worst you could say about a car? Well, the car that you've ever owned.
Good airbags.
No, I said car, not girlfriend.
And we didn't even rehearse that, trust me. Yeah, I mean, I'm always... Well, actually, the car that frustrated me the most last time was an Aston Martin.
DB7? Well, you see, that's 30 years old now.
Exactly. That was the problem. I got one, and I've had a few of them, and for some reason this time I just got frustrated with it. It's all the kind of the forward switches.
I know what you mean.
I had a satellite navigation system that went in. Yeah, exactly. It was that big, and it took about 10 minutes to calculate.
Yeah, and it only ever wants to go to Bedford.
Nice-looking car, though.
Oh, I still maintain the most beautiful car ever made.
Yeah, I agree.
That
Yeah,
changes
beautiful.
every week, but this week I really do
No,
maintain it.
I'm with you, Jeremy. I mean, it looks fantastic, but it's too old.
It is.
Yeah.
Well, it's going very soon. That'll be the DB9.
DB9, I'm looking forward to that, yeah.
Gonna get one?
Maybe.
Really? I'm going to hold off for the AM V8.
You would.
It's because I'm not as rich as you.
Oh, yeah. Don't believe a word of it.
No, do believe a word of it. OK, we've got a list of or some cars I'd like to bring up for you here, and let's just see if you can come up with some of your pop-idly put-downs for these. The first one I want to bring up, I think, is the... Well, let's have a look. What is it? Ooh, it's a Chrysler PT Cruiser.
It's a hearse.
You're right, actually. That would make a good hearse.
Yeah. I mean, it is a hearse.
It's a friendly face from the country that gave you friendly fire. What's next?
Oh, my God.
Go on, that's a Fiat Multipla.
It's like the car has a disease. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, look, it's got spots.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's like deformed. But you know what I mean?
I do know.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a great car, but my word, it's ugly.
Imagine you've just turned up in that and you're on your first date. Or last date.
Yeah.
I mean, incredible.
Yeah.
It wouldn't work.
Bring another one up, because I'm... Now, ooh, look at that. BMW 745i.
This guy's had a lot of stick, this designer, and I think rightly so, because every one of his cars just... I mean, they're horrible.
They are.
They really are. And they should fire this guy.
Chris Bangle.
Yeah.
He's a septic. American, for those of you.
Yeah. He has just killed BMW. You look at that, I mean, it's horrible.
Go on, let's try you on something else, then. Traffic wardens. Can you be rude about those?
I like them.
Now you're just being obtuse.
No, I mean it.
Why?
Because I live in London, Jeremy. It takes me an hour to drive a mile. Take away the traffic
Well,
wardens...
use the pedal on the right.
I'm trying to make a serious point here, Mr. Clarkson. Point is, if you live in London, you've got to have traffic wardens.
You've got to have traffic wardens. We haven't got to have bus lanes.
OK, I'm sort of with you on a bus lane.
Yeah, God, I just thought you were going to say, no, they're marvellous.
No,
Because I don't understand why the poor need to get where they're going more than you. I never quite got that.
That's an interesting theory.
And Moscow had special lanes for the rich and famous at the
So what you're
height of
saying is
communism.
convert the bus lanes into a first-class lane?
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you.
You would agree with that?
Yeah, and you pay a bit extra.
I think it just goes on how nice your car is.
Yeah.
You could use traffic wardens to judge, because most traffic wardens I ever meet, they're pretty
Now
good.
you are making sense.
So if they stood at the front of bus lanes and went, yes, you, and you, no, you with your Skoda out, let's sit in the traffic.
Actually, you're right. I'd go along with that.
But of course, you'd be stumped because you're not going to believe this, ladies and gentlemen. I know what car he's just ordered. A Mercedes Maybach.
Yes. Yes.
Well, we've got time. Why?
Point about a Maybach is, it is not a car you drive, it is a car to be driven in. There is no better car to be driven in than a Maybach.
There is.
What?
Well, the new Rolls for a kick-off.
Disagree.
No, we've got the new Rolls here. That is a magnificent car. It is engineering excellence. They've captured the essence of what a Rolls-Royce is. Look at that.
That is the beginning of Thunderbirds.
I just think that's a fabulous... It's just...
No, you know what? It's ostentatious.
What, and a Maybach isn't?
It's discreet. It's discreet.
A Maybach's not discreet. Trust me, honestly. It's
It
like
is
a big
discreet.
mock Georgian
No, the
car.
point is, it's like sitting in the back of a Maybach is like being in a first-class seat on British Airways. So if you're in a first-class seat on British Airways, you don't get outside of the plane and go, I don't like the look of the plane. It's all about the interior. There is no better car.
You can't even park it in a swimming pool, rock and
You
roll
can,
one.
Jeremy,
Far too
I
big.
promise you, you cannot be bored in the back of a Maybach. It's all about personality. And if you are judging its looks, you are a human Maybach.
That one's gone. I'm not being
Well, in
fair.
other words,
Help me
you're
out.
not on TV because of the way you look. It is about your personality.
Oh, that's nice. I was just about to bring your trouser waistline into it. I didn't. Just look. It's all right. Perfectly acceptable. I saw you the other night, checked him out. It was absolutely... I don't know what they're on about.
No, it was last year.
Oh, it was the last year's look?
Year, yeah.
Now, you came here, of course, to have a go round our racetrack in the Suzuki Liana. But as you know, before the celebs are allowed out, we do give you 1 or 2 laps to have a bit of a practice, yeah? Anyone want to see some of Simon's practices?
I
Yes?
think I know what's coming.
OK, let's have a look at this. There we go, that's Gambon, and... Oh, Lord, that was aggressive. What's this one? That looks like the first call!
You know what I love? You give us the ugliest car to drive around in, then the worst crash helmet.
Yeah.
I mean,
It was
you know,
'cause-
Stig's got the cool one, and
Yeah.
you give us an egg.
Absolutely.
Cheers.
Right, now, who'd like to see the finished product? The lap. Yes? OK, let's play it. Are you a bit of a racer?
Bit, yeah.
You like it?
Yeah.
Bit of a wheelsman?
Yeah.
There was an awful lot of tyre squeak. Mind you, I have to say, those lines are pretty good.
Whoops.
I can't remember who it was we had. The last couple of weeks, everyone would go, oh, that's quite wide. Oh, no, I don't know, actually, that's pretty... Oh, that's disappointingly good. I was hoping to be very rude about your lap, but... Damn, I really was looking forward to taking you apart, but this is quite... Oh. A little more expression needed, if I may be so bold. Cross the line, yes. Right, well, there we are. I just got all these things saying, you know, you've got a future as a Scalextric motor racing person. I can't really be rude about that because it looked pretty neat.
It was all right.
I've got the time as well. How would you like to have done?
I'd like to beat JK.
Well, everybody would like to beat JK, but how do you think you've done?
I did okay, I think.
Who wants to know how fast you went? You did beat JK. You did it in 1 minute, 47.1 seconds. He just nuked it.
I wasn't even trying.
See, this is the really annoying thing, is everybody else comes here and they're a little bit on edge. You just sat there like, yeah, I know I was quick. Damn!
Look who's on the list.
Yeah, but look, now, I'm sorry about this. That's a gauntlet, I'm afraid. Before the end of the series, I'm having another
that's
look.
you?
Yeah.
Yeah, but you're heavier,
Yeah, and I was doing it.
so I'm going to give you that.
I'm going to go out and do that. Ladies
And it's
and
not
gentlemen.
like you've had a lot of practice, is it?
No, none at all.
I am so happy.
Yeah, all right, all right.
So
all
happy.
right, all right, that's
Oh,
enough.
I'm going to be so smug.
Shut up! Ladies and gentlemen, Simon Cowell!
Right. The cool wall. Time for a bit of housekeeping, tidy up some cars we've already seen. The Mazda RX-8. It was on the programme earlier on. Jeremy drove it. And do you know,
Do you know, I'm sorry, before we get to that, I've had an idea.
Oh, Lord.
Brilliant. He's at the top, yeah?
Yes.
We have
You're really smarting.
If we have a phone vote as whether he stays there.
That's brilliant.
It is.
Right, first car, Mazda RX-8. You drove it earlier on in the programme.
Yeah.
Four-door, four-seater coupe.
Yeah.
It's trying hard, it's a coupe, but I think that's a cool car, personally. Yeah. In agreement?
What do you think?
It's comfortable to sit on.
Yeah, no.
Come on, you really... Brilliant.
Cool car?
Cool car.
Cool
Yeah,
car?
cool car.
No, wrong.
What?
No, not cool. Unfortunately, not cool, because you know those baggy knicker curtains people have in houses? It's like... It's trying too hard. They're good at keeping the light out. They look ridiculous.
You see, the Nissan's trying hard. I think that's...
No, I'm not interested in your argument.
You're not interested? That alone is cool, I reckon. Rotary engine.
You would have to explain... Somebody's going to say to you eventually, what is a Wankel engine? You're going to say, well, it's 2 cylinders with 2, like, triangular pistons. How cool's that?
But you get to say, Wankel. That's cool. On telly.
Anyway, this,
Ferrari,
right?
yes.
Lamborghini Gallardo, all right? What do we think?
Cool.
Cool?
Sub-zero.
Sub-zero? What do you... Oh, your hair's exploded. Yes.
Uncool.
Uncool.
Ugly.
Oh, why?
Very ugly.
Very ugly?
Very.
Mind you, ugliness
That's not the
isn't...
same. That can be cool.
It can be cool to drive an ugly car. The thing is about this one, though, if I may just raise it, it's cool if you're an 11-year-old boy, yeah, and it's cool if you're like an ageing rock star.
Well, it's your own test. You pitch up at Kristen Scott Thomas's place, open the door. When she looks in, you are 11.
Yes.
I mean, you actually are there as an 11-year-old boy.
No,
Oh, yeah,
that's not... That doesn't work.
It doesn't work.
Doesn't work. What's that?
It's the Daihatsu Gopen.
Anyone got any thoughts?
It's an expensive shoe.
It is an expensive shoe. I love the way that these people come along and comment on style. Give us a 12. That's terrific.
Lord.
It's great, isn't it? In kind of every way. An
It's kinda
expensive shoe.
Yeah, well, you'd need to buy a pair, definitely.
He's so right, though.
He is right on
So right. Uncool. I tell you what, I have got one little thing I've got to do this week. If I may.
Ha! I know what that means.
Was anybody watching that week?
Did you expecting
If I
anything
buy
soon?
one, it's coming up the board.
So, according to how far you are down the process of buying it, it's
Yeah.
gonna...
Well, I've put my name down, so it's there.
No, that's astonishing.
When the order's accepted, it'll be about here. And then when I need to sell it, we'll be having it around about here.
And then when anybody sees you in it, it'll be right the way back down here again, presumably.
I've had enough of this cool wall this week.
I'm sick of the
I think we should go and talk to James. Well,
Yes.
you should.
Yes.
Do you think he's still here?
James?
James?
Right, the Italians. What have they ever done for us? The Italians have only really given the world two things. The first was the Roman Empire, with its mosaics, plumbing, togas, and aqueducts. And their other great gift to civilization was the cheap, small car.
Yeah, well, obviously they did a few other bits and pieces as well, like, you know, the Renaissance and the telescope, and pasta, and astronomy, and pathology, and the piano, and they invented electricity. But anyway, I wanted to concentrate on the really important stuff.
So let's get back to the small car and the rebirth of an icon, the new Fiat Panda, on sale here in January. So, I've come for a drive to see another of those great Italian inventions, St. Albans. The Romans came here in 43 and built some nice ruins. Roman baths. Now, of course, everybody makes a little car these days, but it's something the Italians have always been especially good at. Unlike domestic plumbing, for example, or restaurant arithmetic. The old Panda was one of Fiat's greatest hits. Introduced in AD 1980, it sold over 4.5 million. The boss of Ferrari called it a historic symbol of Italy. He didn't say anything about Botticelli. There are strict rules about what makes a proper small Italian car. So let's see how the new Panda stacks up.
Now, to my mind, a small Fiat should be completely unpretentious, so this one scores quite well already.
Other small cars are like cutesy fashion statements, but this one seems to say, look, I'm just a cheap little car. Let's just get on with it.
And being small, of course, it's very easy to park, but actually this isn't an issue to the Italians. Here's a bit of parking Naples style.
Well, it is very small, just 3.5 metres long, but more importantly, it's got really quite a lot of space in it. You could get a couple of full-size adults in the back here, or, more importantly, about half a dozen children. Now, this is vital in your small Italian car, and all because of another of their great inventions, the Catholic Church.
Our small Fiat should also be very cheap because it stems from a long tradition of basic cars for people who are a bit hard up. Now, you'll be able to buy a basic 1.1 litre Panda for £6,000. £6,000. This, however, is the 1.2 litre Dynamic. This is a posh Panda. but it's still only £6,500. £6.5 grand. And it's a whole car. And it really is. I mean, you get 4 doors, you get electric front windows, you get a radio, you get power steering, you get 2 airbags, you get alloy wheels, and you get anti-lock brakes.
This is looking good for Italy. The Panda's honest, it's cheap, it's very roomy. What else do we know about the Italians? Oh yes, they all think they're Ayrton Senna.
Now, this Panda is not fast. 0 to 60 takes 14 seconds, which is long enough to knock up a decent penne al pesto. And the top speed is 96 miles per hour. But by the time you get there, Venice will have sunk.
So, you just have to drive like an Italian. Blow the horn, wave your arms around, and thrash it.
I quite like this 1.2 engine. It's sort of feisty and eager. Makes a great deal of fuss without really achieving very much. A bit like the Italian government, really. I think Fiat has got this small, cheap car, remember, pretty much spot on. I mean, it's got the right size, it's definitely the right price, it's got the right amount of space, it's got the right amount of kit. But for an Italian car, there's still something that bothers me.
Well, that's not right. I mean, I've had this thing nearly a week and nothing's fallen off and everything still works. I mean, who the hell do the Italians think they are anyway? The Germans?
So, you like it?
I do like it.
You do know it's just been voted European Car of the Year, which is by a panel of, I don't know, judges that doesn't include us, does it? Well,
No, it doesn't include it. I think that's probably taking it a bit far because, I mean, the year includes, well, the new Rolls-Royce.
Yes.
Which, to be honest, I prefer.
Yes, I'm with you there.
And the Porsche 911 GT3, which...
Again.
I prefer.
Yes.
I'll tell you what it is. It's Car of the Year for £6.5 grand.
OK, now all over the world, the Toyota pickup truck is marketed as the toughest vehicle money can buy. For £1,000, we got a 13-year-old Hilux diesel, which had done 190,000 miles. And, judging by the state of it, only 10 of them had been done on the road. We love cars like this on Top Gear. It's why we like the Citroën Berlingo and the Daihatsu Charade. They're simple, honest-to-God engineering. But this gives us a problem. See, when we get a Porsche to test, we find out how fast it goes. When we get a Renault Megane, we find out how safe it is. But this, as you know, is built for strength. So we've got to find out how tough it is. That's why we brought it to Bristol. This city has an air of solidity about it. The paving stones, for instance, are cemented and then nailed in place. The buildings look planted. It's a Victorian ode to the test of time. So let's find out how the best-built city in Britain copes with our pickup truck. Now this, I want to make it plain, is not Hollywood. We're not using stuntmen. We're not going to use any computer graphics. We haven't made any mechanical alterations to the car at all. We just picked it up from the farmyard and brought it here. Oh, dear me, that was a bit uncomfortable. It damaged my spine quite badly doing this. And then it set about damaging Bristol. didn't really hurt it either.
Yeah, battery's good, radiator's good. That'll buff out. That's got it.
So we left the city centre and went to the seaside. I'd tried careless driving, so I thought I'd try a spot of careless parking.
Look what's happened. This is the Severn Estuary, home to the second biggest tide in the world. 40 feet, and it moves at 8 miles an hour. That's why the RNLI have tethered my car in place. I'm not going to get that out for hours. Damn! Damn! Damn!
The lifeboatmen and locals thought it was all a huge laugh.
So that's going to drown my car?
Oh, yes.
Well, when will I be able to get it out again?
A few hours.
Windscreen's still in.
But then disaster. The ropes tying it down had snapped.
It could be out in the.
It could be right out in the main channel. You may never see it ever again.
I don't think you've quite got this. We've got to get it back.
Very kindly, they waded out to see if they could find it, but it had gone. And it didn't turn up until the tide had gone out 5 hours later. The silt had jammed the steering lock and the cylinders were flooded with seawater. It was a wreck, and though we'd brought a mechanic along, we had no spare parts. Things looked bleak.
Well, the mechanic has worked on it now for 40 minutes or so, I think. And it's not looking good. Seems then that if you want to kill one of these things, the beach, the sea, salt water is the answer. Sorry.
Wrong. Astonishingly, the Toyota was not dead.
I do not believe it! Right, it started. Now, let's see if it moves.
So it had survived the West Country. But would it survive our test track?
The problem is, what can we do here that we haven't already tried? Difficult one.
I mean, the only solid structure we have here is this, the Top Gear production office. And that won't stop it.
The Americans have used daisy cutters on these things, to no avail. But I've got something much more powerful. The Mistral GT. What do you have to do to kill one? Right. Be a bit undignified, but here we go. Lordy Lord, I'm too old for this. I
honestly can't believe this. The steering's fine, the gearbox is fine, the low-range box is fine, the brakes are fine. Even the speedo's telling me we're doing 30. To give you an idea of just how strong this car still is, look what we've got here. It's used to fell skyscrapers. But look what happens when you thump it into the car. Well, the day thou gavest, Lord, is ended. But, sadly, the car isn't. It survived trial by water, it survived trial by Bristol and trial by caravan, but now it must face the most difficult trial of them all. Trial by fire.
That was phenomenal.
I know, amazing.
Be honest, did you really not change any bits?
Not a thing, other than the windscreen. Because the C took the windscreen out, we had to put a new one in for driving through our production office, otherwise it would take my head off. So we put a new piece of Perspex in, that was it. Other than that, nothing. We just had hammers, spanners, and a bit of WD-40 to get the engine going after the C.
All of which makes it more of a shame that in the end you killed it with fire.
That was churlish.
Well, that's the thing. You probably won't believe this, ladies and gentlemen. I want a huge round of applause. It is still working! Have you ever seen anything like it?
What have you done?
Oh dear, it's not quite the same shape.
I have to say, I think the tracking's out. slightly.
That was done when it was dropped. You'll also notice if you rock it slightly, you can see if we just bring the camera around here, this headlamp has still got some of the Bristol channel in it.
Oh, yes.
Oh, dear.
and you've got a light out on this corner as well,
Yeah,
Jeremy. I
that was the
noticed.
tree.
Yeah.
Well, that means it's an MOT failure
Yeah,
as well,
the
so you'll have to
bonnet
do
did-
something about that.
The bonnet went up, but then the wrecking ball pushed it back down again. The interior not pretty. If
Oh,
we
no,
just...
you're right, that is.
Yeah, it's a bit singed.
And I
in there.
noticed above this enormous
Radio's had it.
rust hole here, there's quite a dent there as well.
That was the sum total of the damage from the caravan.
And
That
what's,
little bit there.
what's in here?
That's your desk from the production office. You know you lost it.
I used to sit there.
You did, that's bust. This is quite interesting too. You see this little dent there? That was
there
a
is a
wrecking
dent.
ball.
Right.
That would knock down the Empire State Building. That's all it did to a Toyota
truly
pickup truck.
Slightly flatten the T of Toyota.
Anyway, that's it for this evening. Sadly, we're not here next week because there's some, I don't know, inter-county embroidery match on or something anyway. But we will see you the week after that. Take care. Thanks for watching. Good night.
Can we just stop the competition now?
No, we bloody can't. I'm going to call Damon Hill next week, ladies and gentlemen.